Hello there. It is, what is it today? Tuesday or Wednesday? You lose track of time when everybody's sitting around the house all day long. I'm down at the shed. I was going to work on the pinball machine back here. I'm going to be punching down wires just like I did in the last video, and I'm not going to film any of that just because it's just boring and you've seen enough of it last time. So if you like to watch me punch down wires, just go back to the previous one and watch it again. But once I get those all put down, I will hook up power and a little microprocessor and get the lights turned on and check them out, and hopefully I can get that all done today. So that I will certainly bring you back for and show you that. And I do want to show you one thing, so I'm going to take you off the camera, handhold you, and bring you down to the table here to show you something. So yesterday I stopped by here and I installed this board. This board is going to be used to terminate the light rings that get installed in these three pop bumpers. And those are going to come through the table and get punched down there. So if I get time today also, I may try to tackle that. I don't think I will get time. We'll see when we get to the end. But if I get time, I'll be punching those down there. If not, I will just punch a little wire from the input to the output to short over this connector for the time being. Everything has been wired up. I have my soldering iron plugged in because I'm going to have to solder on an input wire right there. And down here I have my little micro with a cable on it to use for testing, and so I'm just going to temporarily hook that up to this power ground and the signal wire that I'm about to hook up here, and then I'll see if these lights come on or not. I have jumpered the input to output signal on here because I definitely do not have time to work on these today. And as soon as that soldering iron gets warmed up and I get this all hooked up, I'll bring you guys back and show you if it works or not. By the way, I did already splice my wires together. I had to use like 2 or 3 pieces of wire to get the long run. So in several different places I have splices with shrink tubing over them. But that's it. So that is the underside of the board all wired up. Okay, I have my tester wired up and temporarily secured with a little green tape there. I have the signal wire connected onto there. So I am about to plug power in here. I don't know if I can do this. I'm going to have to put the phone down for just a second. Okay, I plugged it in and I get nothing, which generally indicates a short. So I'm going to unplug this and see what's going on. By the way, just to show you, I just plugged it back in after disconnecting the ground wire, and that all looks good. So I'm going to have to do some troubleshooting to try and figure out where this short's at. I'll use my meter for that instead of my microprocessor. See if I can figure out exactly where this short's coming from. And I will do that by systematically separating the board in half and half until I find where it's at. Not sure I'm going to have time to find this today, but we'll take a quick stab at it. So my first stab was to disconnect the 5-volt wire from this because it's easy, and as you can see my test is now running. So obviously the problem is farther down on the connector string somewhere. I think I will go to this spot and well, actually let me go to this spot right here and open that connection and see if it's good to there. Okay, I cut the 5-volt line there, and as you can see, The signal, everything is working good, so the short is somewhere after that. So I'm going to reattach that and move on farther down the string. Okay, I reconnected that. I haven't soldered it back together yet. I'm waiting for my soldering iron to warm up. But I cut the power wire here, which removed or which added those in, and somewhere in there is a short, because when I plug it in, my power doesn't come on. So I have a short in one of these units somewhere, and that is believable because those are the ones I modified. And I know where it is. I can see it, you know, visually spot it. One must watch. Right there, I have a screw that's bridging across the little island marker that I made. So I'm going to have to move that screw to somewhere else, probably down there on the end, or put a washer under it or something like that. I'm going to look around and make sure I don't have any more like that, but I'll take care of this. I removed that screw. That did not take care of the problem. There is still a short somewhere in this bank of lights. So what I'm going to do now, I don't feel like cutting the line anymore, so I'm just going to, I can pop these wires back off and reinstall them. So one at a time, I'm going to take these wires off until I find where the short is. By the way, I verified I disconnected the wire here, and my power is still working and everything works good. So I'm going to connect that back up, and I'm going to go down the line here and just disconnect these one at a time until I find out which one's giving me the short. Well, I have found my short. It is this unit right here. So I'm going to have to take that out and replace it, rehook up all the wires. Now I have another problem. As you can see, the data is coming up to here, and after this LED right here, it no longer is lighting up, even though there's power hooked up to those units. So it tells me that the signal is being lost after this board right here. So I'm going to have to troubleshoot that also. But I am out of time for today. So I'm going to have to wrap it up here and get back home. And I will come back. I am going to take this board out just so that I don't forget which one it is, and reconnect all of the wires that I've disconnected down here. But then I'm going to have to book. Hello, it is now Monday, and I'm continuing on where I left off with the wiring of these lights in the back. I'm going to continue today with trying to figure out, well, I figured out where the short was at the end of the last video, if I remember correctly what I filmed a week ago. I've put a couple of single LEDs down there to replace the two LED board that was shorting out, and I'm going to have to add a little extension wire and connect those up. And then, if you'll remember, right in this area right here, the lights seem to be stopping. That might have to do with software. I'm not sure. I modified the software to add more LEDs. There was only 40 of them programmed into the string, so now I have 200 in there, so that'll definitely cover the whole table. Probably the first thing I'm going to do is plug that in and see what it looks like today, and then I will go on from there. But I'm going to start with the wiring down there, and I want to see if I can get all the LEDs wired in without any power shorts. And if that works, then I will move on to tracking down the signal on the boards. So I'll film some of this off and on. Again, it's a lot more of the same kind of punch connectors onto board stuff I've been doing for the last 2 or 3 videos, so I'm not going to film all of it because I think it's just tediously boring, but I'll bring you certainly back if I make any progress or find any problems. Okay, I have plugged my microprocessor back in. The lights are again flashing the test pattern. It comes up to this board, which is where it lasted before, and if you just look, you can just see that there's the light flashing under here. So, and then you can see that there's light flashing on here. The rest of them are flashing also, but the board's so thick you can't see it. But all of the lights on this board are flashing, and I validated that by looking under the table. But the very next board isn't flashing. And one of the things that I looked, and the connectors look like they're pretty good, but I noticed that this screw looks like it might be clamped over, and it might be shorting that signal, and this is the signal that goes out and goes to the next board, and it looks like this screw might be shorting it out. So I'm going to start, even though I said I was going to start down here with that, I'm going to start by loosening up this screw, checking to see if this thing is shorting this out and stopping the signal. So I'll bring you back when I get the screw out of there, and we'll see what's going on. Okay, I took that screw off of there. It does not look like there was a short under the screw. It looks like all of the solder mask is completely intact there, and removing the screw didn't make it start working. I don't see anything wrong with the wires. They all seem nice and tight. They all look like they're crimped down correctly. There's a possibility that this could be bad, or the last LED in this string here could be bad, but I'm going to have to diagnose it. So I will get my meter out, start checking voltages, start seeing if I got anything going on, and where I should go from there. So we'll bring you back when we got something. Okay, so this problem is actually going to be fairly easy to fix. I took the board out and turned it over, and this is a board that was designed so that the ends could be cut off. And if you look right there at the top of the board, you can see a little shorting jumper that has to be solder bridged over. Oops, it went out of focus. It has to be solder bridged over if you cut the end off. Well, the end was cut off, but it wasn't bridged over. So all I need to do is put a little dab of solder on there, and this should all start working again. Okay, I have soldered that little, you can't see it because of the glare, but right about there I soldered the thing on, and now you can see I've got a lot more LEDs flashing. Everything is looking good up until this board right here where it stops again. But notice that this again is a cut board, and the end is cut off, and this time it's the input side of the board that's cut off. And I am willing to bet a couple of bucks that if I take this screw out and turn it over, there's a shorting connector on this one that hasn't been taken care of either. So I'm going to do that next. Well, I'm on the other side of the table because to get a better angle so things are flipped around from the way I was last time, had to take two boards loose in order to gain access. But as you can see, the shorting connector there is also not bridged, so I'm going to bridge that right now. And as expected, that took care of that problem. So that board is now lighting up. Now the next board is the new ones that I'm installing, and I haven't connected up power to them yet, so that's no wonder that they are not flashing. It's going to take me a few minutes. I'm going to have to cut these wires, splice in some additional power and ground wires so I have enough to bridge across all of those boards, and then we'll bring you back and figure out where the next problem is. Okay, I've spliced in an extra ground and power wire. It looks a little janky, but visually it appears that everything is all hooked up cleanly, no shorts. Hopefully all of these are good. So let's plug the computer in and see how it works. What I'm doing here is I just have a little USB adapter. I have to put the phone down, sorry. So I plugged the little USB adapter into the power. The computer is booting up right now, and as soon as it's done, the lights will come on, and yes, it looks like they're all working. And that's all it was. So a couple of simple little things all the way down to the very last LED. We're getting a signal through. Obviously I have a board I need to screw down right here. But yeah, hey, I'm really happy about this. I've only been down here about an hour, and I've got all of the lights that I have wired done. My next little task is going to be to build the 3 rings if they're still down here. I don't remember if I left them down here, if I took them home. So we'll have to check on that, and I'll obviously go ahead and tighten that one down, but it looks like everything's working, and that is awesome. Okay, I kind of turned the table up sideways so you guys could get a look at the lights all flashing. They do look really, really good. Of course, the ones under colored lenses will look a bit peaked, like say this special light right here. You know, it only really shows up good when it's white or red because it's an orange lens. Same thing with the two down here. It only looks good with white or green. The other ones kind of get faded out. That one right there is a yellow, so it kind of looks wrong except when the white is on. But as a whole, they look awesome. And I think the back looks pretty good too, all in all. It's definitely a lot cleaner and less cables running around than with the other methods we've used. So I am extremely happy with these boards. I cannot find the LED rings here, so I'm going to have to run back to my house to pick those up. Hopefully I will be back shortly. Hey, I'm back from my house with the LED rings. I've got 4 wires for power and ground, signal in and signal out. The adapter rings that are going to get mounted in here to hold these. You guys probably remember this. This sits in here, that sits in there like that. And then this mounts in here like that. And the signal wires go through the bottom, through holes I have yet to drill. And then they plug into a little adapter plate on the bottom. So this really shouldn't take all that long to do. Hopefully 15-20 minutes. I'll probably put you guys up on the tripod and let you watch. Okay, I've got those all prepped, so now I'm going to have to get a drill out and drill some holes through the table to allow these screws, these wires to fish down to the bottom, and then I'll plug them in. Okay, I have the rings all installed, the wires pushed through the tables, the adapter plates stuck in. I have a hot glue gun warming up here. I'm going to go ahead and just put a couple of dabs of hot glue to hold those in place, and then I'll be turning the table over and punching down the wires. So another 10 or 15 minutes and I should be done with this job. So we have the 3 pop bumpers pressed down into the connector here. That one little white wire bridge there is because this connector is made for up to 4 pop bumpers, and if you don't have one, you have to join the input to output connector. I actually have a solder pad. You can kind of see it sticking out under the wire there, but I didn't have a hot soldering iron, so I just knocked a wire in there for now. So anyway, we'll go ahead and plug this in and see if it works. So it's the end of my work day. The rings of lights are working perfectly. Every other light is working perfectly. So we are done. So I'm going to take my code and modify it so it just turns all the lights on white, just so we can look at, you know, how we want to work with them. But this is going to end my work for today. And I appreciate you guys bearing with us and sticking around for a couple of weeks for us to get a video out. But we finally got one, and I am extremely happy.